What's going on? How y'all doing? It's been a minute. I have not been on here in a grip. I'll try to be more consistent, but I offer no apologies if I'm not. I'm just living regular life, trying to not fall apart during COVID. But I wanted to talk about something that was super interesting. Okay, I just got HBO Max, and with HBO Max comes a lot of great things, but one of the greatest things that has happened this year, whether you agree with it or not, is the Fresh Prince reunion special that came out. And I learned a lot from Fresh Prince, the series, the show, growing up. I didn't grow up in the most stable family situation. And so seeing shows like the Fresh Prince was helpful in trying to have some markers on how to navigate just as a young black person in black culture. And how to, kind of keep myself in this world that doesn't give you any indications or give you any real advice or help in that matter. But I wanted to point out 3 things that I learned. I hope I don't go over on time because I'm just so passionate about this. But I want to tell you what I learned by watching this special. First, protecting blackness. And just so you know, this episode, again, pro-black episode, offer no apologies. I'm sorry, I'm black. Not sorry. But protecting blackness, right? And what I want to talk about first, so I can get this out the way, is really the moment that Will Smith had with Janet Hubert on the show when she comes on there, and they kind of sit down, and I'm sure they had conversations after, but they at least bring up the elephant in the room. Why did Black Viv get removed from the show? What happened? Now, obviously I'm an avid Fresh Prince watcher, so I've been seeing a lot of headlines and things that came out that talked about Will Smith saying that she was a difficult person to work with, and I just had never seen Janet in any other role ever again since that moment, which was unfortunate because dark-skinned black women are a very particular group of folks who are not protected in our society and not protected in Hollywood. They're not protected at all, especially in black culture, because there's this thing we call colorism. And colorism is not the only thing that exists only in black culture, but it is something that affects black folk, right? I'm a person that has lighter skin, so there's a perception that I'm non-threatening. There's a perception that I'm well-spoken. And maybe I actually am or not. That's not the relevant part, but the point is non-threatening, well-spoken, all these other things, whereas my dark-skinned counterparts, my fellow folks in the black community, they're not seen that way. They're seen as threatening. They're seen as criminals. They're seen as uneducated, and that's solely because the color of our skin and the difference. There's no actual real proof to determine this. There's never been stats. There's never been anything. This is just something that's been an issue that systematic racism has infiltrated into the black culture. So all that to say is, so Janet, at some point, she talks about how she leaves the show, or how she left the show, why she had to leave the show. And there's a point in there when she says that, I just wish you would have protected me. That's a big moment. I think that seeing that is just a kind of a reiteration of how folks who are of lighter skin need to be cognizant, right? You don't need to go over and beyond, but you do need to be cognizant in how you are speaking of folks, especially speaking of folks who have darker skin tones and things like that. Because the problem is they've had, even if you've had a disagreement or an issue with somebody, the world sees, that of course this light-skinned person is in the right, this white-skinned person is the non-threatening one. It was the black person that was the problem, right? That was in the headlines of saying that Janet was a difficult person to work with. That's problematic. And so I think one of the things is colorism cannot win. We cannot allow colorism to influence and infiltrate black culture any longer. We need to eradicate it. We need to get rid of it. We need to big each other up. We need to love each other no matter what our skin tone is, because it don't even matter. None of that stuff is relevant, especially if in the scope of Christianity, we all brothers and sisters anyway, no matter where you come from. We cannot let it win. we need to be cognizant of it because it is, again, as we see in this Will Smith and Janet exchange, it exists, it's real, but we need not let it prevail, right? Another thing in that point was how we need to disagree in private and agree in public. I don't think you need to lie about stuff. I don't think you need to front about an issue that you have with a brother or a sister or whatnot, or somebody on your team, right? Like I think in church you learn this all the time about how important it is to not lie, not front, but come to grips with something behind closed doors or with a person that's on staff or church leadership and wrestle with it and come to an agreement, because it's important to stand united when you're leading a group of people, right? I can't be out here talking about some, oh man, the head dude is doing this and I just don't agree with it. It's just not my thing. It's not something that I'm going to involve myself with. But I'm a person I'm supposed to be co-laboring with you, right? They look off, right? And so all that to say is, I think when they had that moment, and when she said that, also like, yo, like you said that, like that hurt, that whole, she's difficult to work with. Also in that colorism point, one last thing on this is, I want to talk about how important Hillary's character, and she spoke on it, how important it was for her character to not actually be the quintessential black woman, right? It was multiple black women on the show, and a lot of people were probably looking for her character to be this strong, devout black woman as opposed to this like daddy's little girl. When in actuality, like that's an unrealistic pressure to put on somebody who realistically, who would have grown up with privilege, wouldn't even necessarily have had the needed that pressure to even live out those things or live that way and whatnot. And so I think that Hillary's character was important for her to stay genuine to who she was, and it actually allowed the other characters on the show to blossom and shine in their own ways. Other one I want to talk about is Black excellence. So this is a very tricky topic, right? I've been just doing some research. I actually watched a YouTube video from this guy Crispy Knowing on how Black excellence is a scam. Now, that was clickbait. That was a good title, Chris, but that was clickbait because you believe in it. You just don't believe in the wrong approach to Black excellence, right? And so I think, one thing, I want to describe Black excellence just in this one phrase. Agree with me, disagree with me, you can do it in the comments. Again, this is all for us to better each other up anyways. But Black excellence is working towards the advancement of our people. I saw another video, it said trailblazing, it said resilience. And I want to be careful, right? So these folks in this show had done a great job at doing all of these different things that are listed. I think the problem is with Black excellence is when it becomes this thing that no regular black person can attain by just living everyday life. We have to do something to be excellent. We have to be over and beyond. We have to be extravagant with our goal when we reach our goals and achieve our goals. And that's not true. And just to make this personal, I think about my friend Corey, who's has a wife, has 2 kids. He works a day job. He's creative like me, does video stuff like me, probably way cooler. And I think about how this guy is literally just providing for his family. His wife works as well, but he provides for his family. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a man of God. And like, for me, that's Black excellence. For me, that being able to live a life in a way, and in his case, is going to allow for his kids to have the potential to either reach up to or to go beyond. That's Black excellence for me, right? And I want to make sure that I say that Black excellence is not only reserved for celebrities, athletes, people of power, people of influence. It's for the everyday folk too, right? And that's more important. That's important for me to see Black fathers living their lives, or Black women succeeding in all facets, right? Like, I think this show, Fresh Prince, is so dope because, like, there are a lot of strong Black women that are just doing their thing, right? And I think about folks, like, on a day-to-day basis when I'm going to the post office and I see a Black woman behind the counter just like selling stamps. I think that's dope, man. I think that's dope to be able to live life, because we come from a place where we weren't able to do that. Like this, living without being owned, or living without having these things placed on us, or living just normal lives as maybe folks that aren't black would see it. That wasn't a normal thing just 30, 40 years ago, right? And even now we face things that try to prevent us from doing those just everyday things. And so when folks are doing those things, and when I see folks doing those things and owning their own business, or working at Kohl's, or wherever they working at, that stuff is Kohl's. That's Kohl's department store. Okay, don't worry about it. It's such a good thing. Now I want to be careful, because I do want to speak to my man's Crispy, knowing his thing on being black bodies in white spaces, right? I think we need to recognize black excellence, not for anybody else, but for black people in black culture, right? I don't need to be excellent to show off for massing them, for the corporations, and for my boss and all that stuff. I'm doing this for me and you. If you're black watching this, I'm doing it. This is for you, right? It's the same way that you're living life is to inspire others. Now, I don't think that's limited to only inspiring black people, but I want to be careful in thinking that we only need trailblazers, we only need succeed in the eyes of other folks, so that other folks can see us, look at us, we're black, we're excellent. No, we're doing this because we didn't have an option to be excellent before, and now we have that opportunity. Last thing I want to talk about, which I thought was super dope, just seeing the family away from home, kind of like this concept that it is important to have people who are not related to you to be family to you, right? Especially in those spaces, these folks are going to LA, and they're acting, or Hollywood, and they're acting in these spaces for these periods of times away from their family, away from their roots, right? I think about Will Smith. He's coming from Philadelphia. He's on tour all the time, and he's doing a show, but he's away from his roots, his family. And so I think about how important it is to appreciate the folks that God has put in your life as family, right? Look, man, I wouldn't be who I am today without those folks, those individuals that God imparted into my life, and that challenged me, that challenged my thought, that encouraged me to step up, step out, and that encouraged me to encourage others, right? And so that I could be that same big brother, uncle, or cousin to whoever else that I see in whatever life that they're living. And I think that embracing those folks makes the world a little bit easier. It makes it a little bit easier to live, especially in this tough world, especially during these tough times. Embracing folks that are family away from home is super important. So I thought them doing that was super dope. So those are the things that I learned from the Fresh Prince reunion. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. I probably spoiled a couple things. Look, man, it was good. I couldn't keep it to myself. And just go and just soak it in. Learn what you can learn from pop culture. Don't run away from it. But especially Fresh Prince, dope show. Peace, y'all.